What's up, everybody? It's Julius DeBerry with Majestic Studios, and today we got something very special for you guys. We got this in the mail from Korg, and I cannot wait to open it up and show you guys what's inside. Let's go. Today I would like to present to some and introduce to others the Korg Soundlink series. This series features the MW2408 and the MW1608. They are both a 24 and 16 channel hybrid console that provides the touch and feel of an analog console that we've come to know and love, while also giving some of the convenience that digital consoles offer. The guys at Korg teamed up with legendary console engineers Greg Mackey and Peter Watts and have come up with a small format console that is packed with features and great bang for the buck quality. The digital side of the console includes a nice package of Korg effects. You can use up to 10 of these effects at a time to polish your live or broadcast mix, or help out with studio applications like reverb and delays for singers. Feedback suppression adds a nice touch of convenience, and an on-screen spectrum analyzer helps you keep up with what's going on in the frequency world of your mix. This console offers great high-quality mic preamps, velvet sound digital to analog and analog to digital conversion, and Alps faders to provide a great listening and working experience. Also featuring a 3-band EQ and 1-knob compression on all the mono channel strips, and 4-band EQ on all stereo channel strips. Add in mute groups, a nice monitor section, and 8 bus or group routing options, and you end up with a great console that has benefits in a live and studio environment. Alright, I'm going to start this section off we're going to identify the various sections that this console has. They have it separated and kind of organized really well. So what you need is in a specific section, like most mixers. But like I said, this one does have some tricks up its sleeve. So we're going to start off on this left side here. Let's see, this left side here, these first 8 channels, these are all mono channels. Each one of these channel strips will receive a microphone, XLR, or 1/4 inch input. Each one of these has its own gain pot. There's a high pass filter on each one. I'm not sure yet where the frequency is set as far as that high pass filter. There's an automatic compression knob that's here that could come in handy. You don't have to worry about making attack and release settings and ratio settings. It's all predetermined and preset. So depending on how much compression you're wanting for this specific channel, you just turn the knob up or down, and you can hear my signal even started to pick up a little bit of it. I heard it did get a little louder, just a little bit. Check, 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 check. All right, so that is a 1-knob compressor. So that's going to be pretty valuable to people that aren't into the whole setting the compressor a specific way. So they got it set where, it'll hit when it needs to hit, depending on how much of the knob you give it or how much you take away. After the compressor, there is a 3 band EQ. The high EQ is set at 12K. So you cannot adjust that. It's not sweepable. It's just a 12K. The mid range is sweepable between 250 and 5K. And then there's the low band that's set at our normal friend of 100. So that's pretty cool that they told us, what the frequencies were set for their specific EQ bands. And it changes once we get over to the stereo side of the mixer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So after this, we have 4 Aux Sends, 2 are pre, 2 are post, and there is a little knob here or a little button here that you can engage and make some of the channels or some of the auxes or one of the auxes. Actually, it may be both if you want to make them pre as well. You just engage this button and it turns these last 2 Aux Sends into pre-fader as well. Then you have your effects, and there's an awesome effect section in this mixer, and that's where the digital side comes from. But this is going to tell us how much of that effect signal that we're dialing into the specific channel strip. All right, and then from there we have the pan knob, which is just your normal panning from left to center to right, and that center does have a little indentation, so you can feel where it is versus having to look for it or try to eyeball it and make sure it's right in the center. There's a mute per channel. Engage that, and when you engage it, it turns just like that. That's why my voice went out a little. So that's pretty cool. And then here on just typical mixer stuff, there's an overload light that lets us know if we're clipping, a green light that lets us know that we're getting good signal. And then something that's really cool about this mixer is that there are 8 groups, and they're divided on each channel strip in sets of 2, so you can send stuff this specific channel out to group 1, 2, out to group 3, 4, out to group 5, 6, out to group 7 and 8, and then if you wanted to go to the left and right stereo bus, you can do that as well just by pushing this button. And then there's PFL. All right, so this is the mono side of the console. You would use this for mono signals like vocal microphones and drum microphones, maybe bass guitar, or if you have a DI, you can come into this channel, the channel strips on this side as well. So that's the mono side. And then from there, we have the stereo side. Things are pretty cool on this side too. It's pretty much the same as the mono side, except on the stereo side, we have, on the mono side, we have 8 mono channels. On the stereo side, we have 8 strips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 channel strips that are all stereo. So you could look at this as 16 more mono channels, if you want to call it that. Or you can say we have 8 stereo channels here. So this side you would use for all your keyboards, beat machines, computers, stuff like that you can plug into this side and process them in a left-right type of manner, as opposed to the mono, which is just going to be left or right or straight down the center. All right, so also on these channels, you can pick between a mic signal or line signal. So in the back of the console, and I will show a picture of it, in the back of the console on this side, you can go in mic or line. There is there's a mic channel, XLR mic channel on each strip, and then there is a left and right TRS or 1/4 inch on each input as well. And you can select here if you're going in line. So if we're using keyboards, we would select the line signal, and if we're going mic, we would leave the button for a line up. It's not engaged when it's up, and that would tell the mixer that we're engaging a signal from the mic, the XLR input. So here, of course, they each have their own EQ settings as well. This one is a little different. The high range is 12K. The mid range is 2.5K. So that is set. In the mono side, we were able to sweep that and find the sweet spot between 250 and 5K. But on this the stereo side, we're set with a 2.5K mid EQ, but they also give us another one that comes in at 250. And then there's the low band. It's at 100 as well. So the main difference between the stereo side and the mono side, and that maybe can help you decide which one of the channels you'd like to use. But it's the EQs, the mid-range being set in the stereo side, but you get two of them at 2.5 and then 250. And then in the mono side, the signals are sweepable. So you get to kind of pick and choose and find what you want to take out or pull in on that one. It's sweepable between 250 and 5. Okay. All right, then we have the same settings here as far as the Aux Sends are concerned and the effects. It's the same setup as the mono side. So the main difference in the stereo side and the mono side is the way the EQs are set up. The stereo side does not have high pass filters on those channels, and they do not have automatic compression on them. You can choose between mic and line on the stereo side. But other than that, the channels are pretty much the same. So far we have the mono side, the mono channel strips, the stereo channel strips. Then we have our faders, who are grouped out to one of the 8 or in pairs of 2 to one of the 4 groups. There's 8 groups, but they're set up in pairs of 2 on each channel strip. Okay, so that is the input side, and now we have to talk about the effect side. All right, as stated earlier, this right side of the console is where all the magic happens. This is the main control section, where you handle all of your effects and routing to headphones and all the other little special things that they've added, the control of the subgroups, and everything happens on this side of the console. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. I think we've already discussed the subgroups, and that the console has 8 subgroups divided into sections of 2. So you get four stereo subgroups, and I think you may be able to set them up as 8 mono as well, probably panning left and right. That's something that we'll check out a little later. But from here you can control the overall volume of those buses, or subgroups as they call it here. Subgroup 1 and 2, subgroup 3, 4, subgroup 5 and 6, subgroup 7 and 8. So looking at it from a stereo perspective, they're already grouped in groups of 2 in the stereo pairs, so that mono thing that I was talking about may not work, but we may be able to figure out a way to control that if you want to send stuff out in mono. So anyway, this next section is if you want to mute your effects. It has a mute button across the effects bus completely. So whatever effects are being run to this section here, if you need to mute them for whatever reason, you just push this button and it engages a mute on the effects. You can assign any of your subgroups if you have specific mixes set up for those subgroups and you want to assign them to the left and right, which is the main mix. This can be useful in a live situation or studio situation, and we're going to go over applications in later videos of ways that this console will be beneficial in a studio environment as well as in a live environment different features and ways to use the features that will be beneficial to you in those areas. So you can use these subgroups to send these subgroups being sent to your main mix. You can use that for various reasons. The break button is here, that if something goes wrong, it's like a kill switch. It will kill the sound. Everything in the console, I think, goes out when you push this. It mutes everything. So you saw that my voice cut out immediately when I pushed that button. So that's good. If something goes wrong, all of a sudden you can just hit that and it'll kill everything. Here you can send your effects to aux 1 and 2. Aux 3 and 4 aren't choosable here, but you are able to send. So if someone wants a little bit of reverb or something like that sent to their mix, you can send that there. So if you have a singer or something, they want to hear themselves with a little bit of effects, and you can just send that to them using these buses. The effects to aux, and it only goes to VEX 1 and 2. There's mute groups. We can talk about that as well in a later video. You can assign mute groups, just like other digital consoles, if you want to set up certain channels on the console to all be muted at once. So like if you're in church and the pastor's up speaking and you want to have every channel muted when he gets up, you don't have to sit there and go like this for every single channel and then remember, what's what, and then remember to unmute. You can just assign those channels that you're going to want muted to a mute group, and you just hit that mute group and it mutes that channel. So that's a pretty cool feature to have as well. We can send the talkback to either the main mix or the aux mix. On the back of the console, there is a Talkback Mic Input, and you can plug an XLR microphone into the input, and that input from that mic. So if you need to talk to someone specific in the band, if you want to send it to the band mixes, or if you want to, I think in the manual it says you can make announcements to the audience as well using this. So if you want to be able to say things from the console and certain people hear them, you can send them out to the left or right, the main left or right, and you can also send them to the auxes. That's also useful in some studio applications as well, but like I said, we'll talk about that later. This controls the volume of the talkback mic, so it's pretty self-explanatory. There's also a very convenient stereo in jack, and it's located at the very top of the console next to the headphone jack. If you have like a separate computer feed or like an iPhone or Android phone, and you want to be able to play MP3s or something like that just really quickly while having to do a lot of patching, you can just plug in with a 1/8 inch cable there and be able to control the volume of that device on the fly. It's conveniently located on the front panel, and the volume control for it is right here. Next is a pretty cool feature, and this is the well, before we talk about that, we'll just really quickly go over the Oxmaster. So this is the really simple and straight to the point. There's a master volume for all 4 of your auxes. And we talked about before, the auxes are set up post fader, but you can assign auxes 3 and 4 can be set to pre-fader if you like. If you select this button, each one of the channels has it. Across all the channels, you just hit this pre-fader button, and that makes aux 3 and 4 pre-fader. Pre-fader, post-fader is just the response of the bus before or after the fader. So if you want your fader movements to be included in what is going to the bus, then you want your auxes to be post-fader. So if your mixes are set up and if you change the volume of these faders, it will also change in the feeds that are being sent to those auxes. That is post fader. If you would like your auxes to be pre-fader, which means that what you do to the faders, the adjustments, they don't show up in the aux mixes or on these buses, you want your stuff set to pre-fader. So that pre-fader button allows 3 and 4 to be made pre-fader by default, I think everything is post, if I remember correctly. And if that's incorrect, I will make an adjustment and annotate it in the video and let you know. But these are just the master faders for the aux mixes. All right, so this feature that I was talking about is the musician's headphones. These musician's headphones are automatically tied to aux 3 and 4. And there are headphone jacks on the back of the console. They have 4 XLR Aux Sends or XLR outputs on the back of the console that are attached to these 4 auxes, but aux 3 and 4 have headphone jacks on them, and they're labeled musicians headphones. And these are really cool because you can set aux 3 and 4 up for a mix for a musician, but they have this little feature called inject LR, and so that's where you can kind of inject or just put that mix into auxes 3 and 4. So whatever is being sent to the house mix, which is the main left and right, or whatever is being sent to your computer on the main left and right, that stuff can be copied to their mix. But it's not really, it's in their mix, but it's not in their mix. It's in their mix because you're injecting it. So if you just want to put a little bit of that in there so they can actually hear what's going on in the house, what the house sounds like, not the house, but like what mix you're sending to the house. If they want to hear a little bit of that, then you can just insert just a little bit of that into their mix, and so they still have the comfortability and the volume of the mix that they want to hear, but you also inject some of what's going on in the overall picture so they can hear themselves in context. But that's pretty cool. That's a cool little feature that they've added to the console. Here we have our digital metering, just like normal for most other consoles. Now at this top part, this is where things kind of get really fun. This is the effects section, or kind of the control brain of the entire console. We have encoder here, a couple of buttons, and a couple of buttons up here, and then the screen. And they have really done some neat things as far as this is concerned. They have a slew of, well, not a slew, but it's a lot of effects that you would find handy, or effects that you would expect to be in a digital console, or a console or mixer that has effects, reverbs, delays, those type of things. They also have test tones, which is a cool little spin for them to add for this console as well. So let's just go straight up here to this section, and we'll work our way back down. So here is the dynamic section, and in this dynamic section you are able to add compressors or limiters to the main or aux mixes in the console. So let me just show you. So if you push this main LR, there's 3 buttons here that say main LR, aux 1, aux 2, and it's also on this side, but this side is for the EQ. There's like a global EQ that you can add to the main left, right, or aux on 1 and 2. So let's just start with the dynamic section. If you push main left, right, that screen, I don't know if you saw that or not, but I'll go back out. But if you push main left, right, the settings for the default dynamic processor comes up there, and it's a limiter. If you would like to change that, they have buttons right underneath the screen, and these little buttons correlate or assign to whatever the parameter is on top of them. So if you would like to adjust the attack, you would push one of these 2 buttons, this one or this one, because it's right underneath attack, and you can see that there's 2 little indicators underneath to tell you exactly which buttons are going to be used for that. And then there's 2 under sensitivity, all right, and that's the threshold. And then you have the type. So the type is where we can push this button here, and it gives us choices between the type of dynamic effects that are available. We have a limiter, a compressor set at hard setting, a compressor set at soft setting. We have a gate set at hard setting and a gate set at soft setting. These are really good gates on the default settings. I put them in the other day just to hear if it would kill noise in my room, or the little bit of noise that was in the room, and it really got rid of it. I'm gonna see if you can hear it now. Let's see. You hear that? It just got like completely quiet. Completely quiet. And then there's a soft gate. It's still pretty quiet. It's not as quiet as the hard, of course. That hard gate is like really, really good. So anybody that does like podcasting or anything like that, whatever they got these gate settings on, it's crazy. It like got rid of everything. But anyway, that's just there to show you guys. I'm gonna put it back on the limiter. So when you can select which one of these compressors, or not compressors, but dynamic processors you would like to use. And when you select the one you want to use, you just push select. It's the same thing I told you a second ago. There's buttons underneath here to let you know which buttons you use to select. You can use the encoder to go up or down, and you can also use these up or down buttons that are here on the console underneath here. And then when you find one you want to use, you just go to select. There's also an edit screen, and that's how you get back here. Hold on, let me make sure. Yep, that's how you get back out here, so you can edit the settings. So let's just say we want to use the hard compressor. You use the jog wheel or the up and down buttons. You select it. Okay, now the compressor is engaged. And then if you want to edit the settings, you just push edit. And then you go here, and if I want to adjust the attack, you push attack. And then you can use the encoder to go up or down on the compressor settings. And if you want to adjust the threshold or the sensitivity, just hit that button, the little buttons underneath sensitivity, and you can move up or down until you get the settings that you like. And then, of course, again, I'm going to go back to limiter just to put it back on the default setting. And at any time, if you want to get out of these screens, you can always just push the overview button. That is this button right here to the left, go up and to the left of the encoder, the main encoder, and it sends you back to the main menu. So once on the main menu, it also lets you know what processor you have engaged and what output it is engaged on. So what that's telling us right now is that we have put a limiter on the main output. So if you want to turn that off, you see when it's on, the main left and right turns red to indicate that it's on. If you would like to turn it off, you just push it again and it turns it off. So now when we go out to the main menu and it's blinking, okay, let me tell you this because this took me a second to figure out what this is about. But the lights, once they're blinking, that's letting you know which output you are currently working with. So that's blinking, letting me know that I am changing the dynamic processor on the main left and right mix, okay? So when we go back out here to the overview screen where it said limiter on the main, it should be gone now because we have turned it off. And as you see, it's gone. So if we want to do the same thing on the aux out, we push the aux out. And the same thing here, we can select what effect we want on it. On the main, the aux 1 and aux 2. Those are the only ones that you can put these dynamic processors on. So if we want to put a soft compressor on aux 1, then we go back out. You see we got compressor on aux 1. And if we're going to go to aux, see aux 1 is lit, letting us know that's the one we're currently working with. See, now we're back on the main one. It's blinking. Now we're on aux 1, it's blinking. Now we're on aux 2, it's blinking. So you can put up to one effect on each one of these outputs. Okay, you can, let's see, I'm gonna put a hard gate on that one. And then back to the main output, and we're gonna put the compressor there. So now you see we have a limiter on the main output, we have a compressor on the aux output 1, and then we have a gate on aux output 2. So that's pretty cool. So it's 3 different effects that you can insert on that dynamic, not on the dynamic, in the 3 dynamic processors that you can insert on the main out, the aux 1 out, and the aux 2 out. All right, so from here, so you see they're all red, letting us know that we have processors engaged on them. If we want to turn them off, just like I told you before, you'll click it once, then click it again, it turns it off. Click aux 2 once, click it again, turns it off. And then if we want to turn off the thing on main left and right, we click it again, it's off. All right, it's the same thing on the EQ side. On the EQ side, you can insert EQs on the main left right, on the aux 1 and 2, and the same settings go, same things from before. If it's blinking, that's letting you know that's the one you're currently using or changing parameters on, and the same thing for aux 1 and 2. Now if you want to turn these EQs off, you just click them twice, or click them just like we said before, and it turns them off. All right, now something cool is they have two different kinds of EQs that you can put on these outputs. There's a wide one, so if you want to make, you know, big. All right, so if you want to change the type of effect, you would, not type of effect, but the type of EQ. So we're here on this screen, and we have the red indicator blinking, letting us know we're making adjustments to the main LR, main left and right mix. So from here, you'll push menu. And now it says select EQ mode. Okay, so what that does is now when you push the select button here, you can choose a wide EQ, which is going to allow you to make wide changes or wide changes to the EQ. Or you can select narrow, which is going to have narrow band. So if you need to make precision EQ adjustments to get rid of problem frequencies, or, you know, help out some stuff a little bit, you can choose wide or narrow. And you can do that on each one of the channels. So I'm going to choose wide on the main left and right. So we're going to push select to pick that one, or we could push cancel and get out completely. But we're going to push select, and now we push exit, and now we have a wide EQ on the mains. So we go to the auxes, and we're like, okay, so these are, could just say these are wedges, and you want to be able to do some fine EQ adjustments to help with feedback. So you'll go to aux 1, and you push menu, go to select EQ mode, and now you can select narrow. Go to select, and as you can see, when we're on the main LR, hold on, let's see. Okay, so how this EQ thing is set up, I was exactly right how I told you as far as changing the type of EQ, whether it's wide or narrow. So when you're looking at this screen, the EQs look the same, okay? Now this one has been changed, and that's what I'm about to show you. So this is a wide EQ, this is a narrow EQ, this is a narrow EQ. Okay, so when you're on the wide EQ, when you have selected the wide EQ, and I'm going to show you how to do that again, you go to menu, then you select the EQ, and you go to wide or narrow. Okay, when you're on wide, these frequencies are set. If you would like to adjust them, you just click the button underneath that corresponds. So if you want to change the 1K frequency for boost or minus, you just select the button underneath 1K, and you move the jog wheel until it sounds the way you want it to sound. I know you guys probably could hear my voice change just a little bit on that adjustment. Okay, so check this out. Now we'll go to one of the auxes where we made it a narrow EQ. Okay, so when you're on narrow EQ, these frequencies are also here, and they're already set. All right, so how these EQs are set up is just like I explained before. When you're on you have a wide EQ, you have a narrow EQ, and the differences are the frequencies that are set up by default are the same, but with the narrow, you can go in and change those frequencies and adjust them to your liking. Okay, so let's just look at an example. So right now we have our main EQ set on a wide. So all these frequencies are here. There's buttons underneath that correspond to each one. And if you want to adjust that frequency, you just push the corresponding button, and then you can use the main encoder to go up or down. I'm sure you heard my voice change pretty drastically there. So let's go down here. Let's add a whole bunch of low in. Gosh. Check. All right, and we could also do the same up here. Let's go to 4K. That should be pretty noticeable. Let's add a bunch of 4K. You guys hear that? We could take a bunch of 4K out, and then we'll do a little bit in the mid-range around 1K. Add a lot. Check, and that takes away. Okay, so those bands are pretty much set. That's the wide. Okay, so if you want to go to narrow, so like let's just say I want to change it. If I click one of these frequencies, because like on, well, let me just show you this first. Okay, so if you go to a narrow frequency, the narrow band, we have the aux1 set up on narrow. The frequencies are there just the same, and you can adjust them. It's not going to change because these are the aux mixes as opposed to the main mix, which is what you're listening to. Up or down, it doesn't change. But if since this is set on narrow, if you're saying, okay, I need to figure out exactly, I need to do some fine tuning on the EQ, and these frequencies aren't working. If you click this encoder in, now you can select the exact frequency band for that area of the EQ. So you see it's changing right here. So let's say that, let's get out of here. Let's exit. Let's say 800 is not a problem. Let's say 2K is not a problem. But we know it's around here. It's between 800 and 2K. All right. Or let's see if we can even go between 2 and 4. So if you push this button in, a menu pops up and it gives you access to determine what frequency you'd like to adjust. So remember we said it could be between 2K and 4K. So it gives us the choice between 2K, we can go to 2.5K, we can go to 3.15K, or we can go down to 1.6K, 1.25K. Okay, so you find that frequency that you think it might be, and you can set that to now be the frequency that's set. And you can only do that under the narrow band. Okay, so let's try to go back to the main left right where we had a wide EQ. If I push this button while I'm on wide, it's going to tell me, hey, this is not set on narrow. Do you want to set it on narrow now? So let's try it. So we click this in. It says GEQ, tweak frequency. To tweak frequency, EQ mode must be narrow. Change to narrow now. So if you want to change to narrow, you would push set. If you want to, no, I didn't mean to do that, or no, that's not what I want to do, you just push cancel and it takes you back out. But say you do want to do that, you push set. Remember again, go to any one of these frequencies, and I'm like, man, it's not 8K, but I want to change to something else. You push this button, oh, it's not a narrow EQ, it's a wide EQ. So you push that button, it gives you the choice to tweak frequency. EQ mode must be narrow. Change to narrow now, and you push set, and now it says EQ mode change narrow. So now on your main EQ, we have a narrow EQ. On your main output, we have a narrow EQ. So we're going to go to that again. So we want to adjust it. So now when we push this button, now the 8K frequency is adjustable to change to another frequency, to kind of try to help you have a little more options as far as your EQ bands are concerned. So it won't let me go any further than 4K. So let's say that I want to change this one because I want to be able to make some, more fine adjustments, and it won't let me go below 5K. And so I wonder if I go to 4K, now if it'll let me go below 4K on this one. I wonder if I can go to below 4K now on this band. Nope, it still won't let me hit that 4K. Okay, so they're only adjustable to a certain point, up or down, and they can overlap, as you could see. Now this one is below that one. It only goes down to 5K. It won't let me go 4, but this one let me go up to 6.3. So that's kind of cool. All right. I hope that makes sense. All right. So let's turn all of this stuff off. So now all of their effects are off. So now if we go to the overview screen, we see we have nothing on. All right, so the last two, let's see. So we have, I think they said there's 10 effects available at a time, or at any one time. So if you had 3 dynamic processors on, that would be 3. 3 EQs on, that would be 6. There is a feedback suppressor built into the unit. I have not gotten to use this yet, but when I asked about it, how I was told it works is that they thought once the feedback came in, that you could push the feedback, the anti-feedback, and it would get rid of it. All right, so what it does is that anti-feedback finds those frequencies and gets rid of them. It finds the frequencies of the feedback and gets rid of them. So let's see if we can look at real time. So if we go to the analyzer, there's an info view. There's an analyzer here that shows you the EQ bands that are currently being tickled in the console. Ooh, ooh, ooh. All right, so you see that. That could, really come in handy, especially for a engineer that's not trained with getting rid of feedback. Most cases, people that don't have experience, the first thing they want to do is turn volumes down, which is a quick fix, but it does affect the sound negatively sometimes, or a lot of times, because everything gets lower. So that's kind of cool. So if it was me and I was in a situation and some feedback happened and, we were in a show and this is the screen I was on, to be honest, I would probably stay in this screen most cases, just so I can see what's going on. And when the feedback happens, you're going to be able to see what's spiking and what's peaking. And I wonder if it automatically adjusts, because we don't even have any EQs on. So this is pretty interesting. I'm going to have to ask some questions and do some studying on this to see exactly how this works, because we don't have any EQs even on right now. So what I was thinking was that maybe it would adjust the EQ settings that you had to fix the feedback, but that's not what's happening. It's doing something else. That would be kind of cool to see. If you had an EQ on and you saw the feedback, anti-feedback kick in, or you told it to kick in, and then you could see it, start moving frequencies around until it got rid of the feedback. That would be crazy. But it's doing something different. It's doing something backdoor, and it's pretty dope. I think how they have that set up. It could really be useful and help. But what you can do is, if you see those frequencies hitting, you can just go in and let's say that you're here and you see that 4K is going haywire. You just go in, turn 4K down, and then you can turn the feedback suppressor off and see if that gets rid of the feedback. Now it's got to be quick. You got to be quick. All right, and then last but not least, we have our DFX, which is the main effects unit for the console. This is the effects unit that is controlled or sends to each one of these red encoders, these red knobs. Those are your effects. The effect sends. Also, it's right here. All the red stuff is the effects. And if we go here and look, they have all kinds of effects here that you can choose. Let's go to this reverb room warm. Let's select it. Check. So there's no reverb going right now, but if we send this effect just a little to the effect and then turn it up here, we should start to see here that reverb room warm. All right, so that's the reverb, and if you don't like it, you can just turn it down a little or a lot, or off completely. You can turn it off here, but this would turn it off for all the channels. You can also turn the effect off in the specific channel, like I just did. This this little knob here sends this channel to that effect. All right, and remember I also told you guys we could send a little bit to the auxes using these buttons, but we don't have anything connected to the auxes right now, so you won't be able to hear that. So let's try a different effect. Let's go to delay. Check. 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 Okay. Okay. So we can turn that off here again. Check. It's gone. Well, it's not gone. It's there. You just can't hear it. All right. And then I'm gonna turn this off so I can talk. Let's go to reverb hall. Check 1 2. Yep. Check 1 2. Go to 1 until you find one that you really like. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. All right, and then you can edit the effect by going to edit. Go back again so you can see that. So you go to select the effect you want to use, select it, and then edit. And you can change the amount of time in the reverb or the delay. And then here again, goes back to the type. Let's go back to a delay and see if the settings change. Yep, time's there again. Feedback, and then type. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can play with as far as this console is concerned. Let me turn this effect off. They really did a great job. It's not completely digital. It's not completely analog. It's hybrid, which is what it says right here. Hybrid analog/digital mixer. I think they did a good job with what they've put in this package at the price point. The amount of preamps you get, the amount of stereo input channels. You know, most of the time we get consoles and mixers, and what we get is a lot of mic pre's and mono inputs, and they just tag a couple of stereo channels on the end, and you know that's cool. But I used to hate having to take my keyboards and use them on the stereo channels. I mean the mono channels, and just take up 2 channels for one keyboard. So we get, you know, the opportunity to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stereo instruments, or you know whatever, into this console, and you know that's kind of cool. It might be overkill for one person to have this as, you know, their console, because you know you got 8 keyboards hooked up for yourself. You know that might be a lot. Even for, you know, us that really love keyboards, that might be a lot. But you know, in a studio environment, you know, if you got stereo keyboards, this thing could be pretty beastly. Connecting your keyboards to this and then busting out of here into your preamps, and not having to take up preamps, not busting to preamps, but busting to your interface without having to use up 8 inputs on your preamp. So you can plug in 8 stereo keyboards into this, and then plug in 8 stereo keyboards into this, and then output, you know, 2 or 4 channels into your interface via the subgroups, the buses, the auxes, you know, however you want to do that, and you only use 4 channels as opposed to 8. But that drop of a hat at any given time, you've got 8 keyboards that you can access, or 8 stereo instruments or whatever that you can access straight from the console. Not to mention, you know, in a studio environment, again, if you got bass players or if you got drums, there's just a lot that I think could be done with this console. And I think we're going to have a couple of videos coming out later talking about the benefits of using it in a live scenario, and then benefits of using it as far as a live streaming console, and then also in the studio. I think those are 3 areas that we could pull a lot of strengths out as far as this console is concerned. And I'm going to enjoy it, and I think you guys will enjoy it, and the videos hopefully will come soon. If you guys have any questions or concerns or anything that you like to ask me or to like to know about the console, please post it in the comments below. Again, I want to send a huge thank you to Korg for the opportunity to work with them and to present this console to you guys in this manner, and just looking forward to great things to come from that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I hope to see you guys soon. From Majestic Studios, we're out.